Welcome to the Deep Dive. We are here to take your sources, that giant stack of articles, research, and technical papers, and give you that strategic shortcut, extracting the critical insights you really need.
And today, we are wading into a truly fascinating space.
Oh, absolutely. The convergence of ancient human psychology and cutting-edge artificial intelligence. We're looking at why teams, even with the most powerful AI, still fail.
And how governance is, finally starting to catch up.
That's it.
Our mission today is really for you, the learner, who's seeking to understand not just the mechanics of generative AI, but the deep cognitive and regulatory challenges of putting it into daily decision-making.
It's a huge paradox.
It is. We're unpacking how our oldest flaws, things like groupthink, are being mirrored and, frankly, amplified by new machine intelligence.
And what enterprises are actually doing right now to bridge that gap. So we've structured this into three clear segments. First, we have to talk about the foundation.
The human foundation.
The fragility of our own collective intelligence. Second, we'll examine this new paradigm, what we're calling hybrid intelligence, and the new bottlenecks it creates.
And finally, we'll get into the emerging AI governance landscape of 2025 and the tools companies are deploying to manage all this complexity.
Okay, let's unpack this, and let's start with us, the humans. Before we even bring AI into the picture, we need to talk about why human groups, on their own, often make really suboptimal decisions.
Right. It starts with this concept of collective intelligence.
The whole wisdom of crowds idea.
Exactly. And it's a beautiful idea, in theory. The judgment of a diverse group should be better than any single expert. But, and this is a huge but, that wisdom relies on some very strict requirements.
Things like diversity of opinion, independence.
Independence of judgment is the big one. And decentralization. If you lose that independence, the whole system just collapses.
And the most classic, the most devastating way to lose that independence has to be groupthink.
Groupthink is essentially rationalized conformity. It's that deep-seated desire for harmony in the group.
So everyone just wants to get along.
And that desire becomes the highest priority, and it just completely overrides any critical evaluation of facts or alternative paths. It's a deeply dysfunctional process.
And we have decades of just tragic, high-profile case studies to prove it. You think about the collapse of Enron.
Oh, absolutely. Their corporate culture actively discouraged any kind of internal dissent.
So key figures were just allowed to run with these wildly high-risk accounting practices, and everyone else, even the board, just ignored these massive red flags that, in hindsight, were screaming at them.
It's a textbook case. And on the historical side, you have the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster, a powerful example.
Where engineering warnings were just ignored.
They were, because of internal organizational pressure, this self-imposed, rushed schedule. They wanted the publicity.
It was teacher in space.
Exactly. So the need to meet that schedule, it just trumped these clear safety concerns from the experts on the ground.
The common thread there feels like suppressing disagreement just to maintain unity.
Yeah.
But it gets more subtle than that, right? It's not just group pressure. Sometimes it's just plain old overconfidence.
And what's so fascinating here is how these personal flaws, they scale up to the collective level. Our sources cite research calling personal overconfidence maybe the most significant of the cognitive biases.
And you see this distorting decisions at a massive scale, even at the national level.
We have compelling evidence on that.
Tell us about that study, the one on national overconfidence.
So researchers looked at citizens in China and found they systematically, widely, overestimated their global reputation and soft power.
Why, how much?
By an average of nearly 35 percentage points. They just believed their global standing was far higher than international polling actually showed.
Wow.
And here's the critical part. When the researchers then told the participants what the actual results were, it moderately tempered their political evaluations.
So if a group or an entire nation just believes it's better than it is, that hubris affects its policies, its preparedness, its willingness to self-critique, that's a huge insight for any corporate board.
It is. Now let's look at another failure mode, the information cascade, or herding.
Herding. So you follow the crowd.
You follow the crowd even if your own gut or your own data tells you the crowd is wrong. You see what others are doing, and you just ignore your own private information.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. When we talk about incentives and herding, I want you to pay close attention to this because this is completely counterintuitive.
It absolutely flips standard management thinking on its head.
So what did the experiments show?
They show that when people are rewarded as individuals for the accuracy of their own answer, they are, paradoxically, more likely to act as a herd, to conform.
Wait. So if I reward my team for individual excellence, I actually get less accuracy and more conformity.
That's right. You crush the diversity of opinions and you reduce the overall accuracy of the group.
That's wild.
Wow.
Why?
Because the reward is individual. So the risk of being wrong, of looking like an outlier, is incredibly high. So you minimize your personal risk by just copying the person ahead of you.
Assuming they knew something you didn't.
Right. But if you reward the group as a collective for the overall accuracy, it encourages individuals to voice their unique opinion because that unique data point is what preserves the group wisdom.
So collaboration, not competitive accuracy, creates wisdom. That is a perfect transition point. We need to take that lesson into the age of hybrid intelligence.
Correct. We're shifting from pure human intelligence to hybrid intelligence, or HI.
And HI is not just a human using a tool.
No, not at all. It's a collaborative, iterative workflow, a virtuous cycle. The AI generates these scalable, data-driven insights.
And then presents them to the human experts.
Precisely. And the human experts, they apply their domain knowledge, their intuition, their strategic oversight to validate and refine those findings.
And that feedback makes the AI better.
Exactly. It's used to retrain the model. It's truly collaborative.
And this interaction, it has a massive dual impact on performance. The first is what our sources call the amplification effect.
Right. AI is a skill complementary technology. It raises average performance. Sure, it makes everyone a little better, but it raises top-tier performance even more dramatically.
So it's a
The blank page problem. But now, generative AI helps experts produce drafts, ideas, code snippets faster than they can possibly execute or evaluate them.
So the bottleneck shifts completely. The scarce resource isn't ideation anymore.
It's curation. It's evaluation, prioritization. It's attention itself.
So if I get this right, the new job of the expert is less about pure generation and much more about quality control, about filtering this fire hose of AI-generated possibilities.
Exactly. Which brings us to the new challenges of hybrid teams. Multiple humans, multiple AI agents, and to new failure modes. We're not just talking about human groupthink anymore. We are talking about AI groupthink.
And this parallels the human problem, but the mechanism is different. It's not social pressure.
No, it's informational convergence.
Yeah.
If you have multiple AIs, maybe all trained on similar data, and they all converge on the same conclusion, a human team might mistakenly see that as independent, irrefutable evidence.
When it's really just an echo.
It's just an echo. The critical countermeasure here, and this has to be hardwired into the workflow, is that AI consensus is not independent evidence.
So you have to maintain skepticism. You have to seek external, non-AI verification. Otherwise, human overconfidence just takes that machine confirmation as proof.
Exactly. And that leads to an even more dangerous failure mode. Coherence collapse.
That sounds catastrophic.
It is. Coherence collapse is when the hybrid team just loses all thematic unity. Imagine a legal team. They ask an LLM to analyze 5 different policy documents. They get 5 perfect, locally correct answers.
But when they try to put them together,
They don't form a coherent legal strategy. It's just a pile of disconnected facts.
so you get lots of individual, high-quality outputs, but zero cumulative progress, high entropy.
Precisely. The work devolves into these disconnected episodes. Lots of activity, lots of information, but the team completely loses the plot.
So you need what you called coherence anchoring. The humans have to constantly re-anchor the AI's work back to the big picture strategic goal.
Which highlights the absolute necessity of human domain expertise, not just as a validator, but as the source of strategic gravity. It all comes down to selective delegation. Domain experts, engineers, programmers, doctors, they prefer delegating the low-level routine tasks to AI. But they keep control over the high-level work.
The analysis, the synthesis, the interpretation.
Right. They want to stay close to the data that really matters. It's about professional identity and accountability.
A great example of this is vibe coding, this new way of programming by just talking to an LLM.
It completely changes the act of programming. Developers now rely on rapid inspection, kind of an impressionistic scan, to see if the AI-generated code looks right.
Instead of writing it line by line.
Right. And research shows that advanced students are much better than beginners at communicating their intent to the LLM in a way that's grounded in code structure. So human expertise shifts from writing the content to managing the context and evaluating the output.
So what does this all mean for the business world that has to deal with this messy reality? All these new risks have triggered really rapid regulatory action.
The stakes are incredibly high now. Responsible AI tools have moved from a nice-to-have to an absolute business necessity.
because the cost of noncompliance is potentially existential.
It is. Under rules like the EU AI Act, fines can hit 20 million euros or even 4% of worldwide turnover. That is a massive deterrent.
And the EU AI Act is the world's first comprehensive risk-based regulation. What's the immediate timeline we should know for 2025?
So key provisions, like bans on social scoring, took effect in February 2025. But the big one for providers of general-purpose AI, or GPAI, is the compliance deadline in August 2025. Companies are scrambling right now to get their models documented and their risks classified.
And how does the U.S. approach differ from that?
The U.S. is much more executive-driven, less statutory. It's relying on things like the October 2023 executive order and, crucially, on voluntary commitments from the big AI firms.
Commitments to do what?
To do things like external red team security testing and share safety information with the government. It's a different philosophy, focused more on innovation with, let's say, voluntary guardrails.
So given these stakes, enterprises need platforms to manage this risk. Let's look at the solutions our sources highlight, because these are tools designed specifically to combat the failures we've been talking about.
Take Data Robot. They offer unified governance across multi-cloud models. Their key feature is enterprise-grade auditability, but more importantly, real-time intervention.
So if the model starts to hallucinate or show signs of that AI groupthink in production,
The platform can detect that risk and intervene or shut it down before it ever reaches the human for validation. It's a direct countermeasure.
what about companies dealing with multiple global regulations?
They often look to platforms like Holistic AI. That tool is heavily focused on risk management and compliance gap analysis. It does automated bias audits, which is critical for fighting those herding effects we talked about. It helps you classify your AI systems by risk, which is step one for EU compliance.
And those aren't cheap.
No, enterprise deployments start around $18,000 a year. And there are other big players too.
Like IBM Watson OpenScale.
Exactly, and Credo, which is focused on policy-first governance. The whole idea behind this governance tool stack is to make the invisible risks of AI integration visible, auditable, and manageable.
So let's wrap this up. Where do we stand?
Well, we've seen that AI amplification is very real. It's saving expert users, 40 to 60 minutes a day. But realizing that value, it means navigating both classic human pitfalls like groupthink and these new hybrid failure modes like Coherence Collapse.
So the path forward lies in structuring human oversight.
It's all about structuring human expertise, especially when the AI is a creative partner, not just a passive tool. The human's job is not to compete with the AI, but to anchor its immense power to a coherent strategy.
The key challenge for organizations in 2025, then, it isn't just building powerful models, it's integrating them reliably, ethically, and securely. It's understanding that your biggest risk might not be a faulty algorithm, but a highly confident collaborative team, both human and machine marching in lockstep right toward a flawed conclusion.
So here is a final provocative thought for you to mull over as you leave this deep dive. Consider high-stakes regulated industries, like the pharmaceutical sector, where new laws impose massive fines for non-compliance. Given the new unseen risks of AI groupthink, where multiple systems align on a faulty answer, and coherence collapse, where lots of activity yields no strategic progress, how certain are you that your organization's compliance is protected by effective human-AI coordination, rather than being actively threatened by it? That's something worth diving deeper into on your own time.